Dangai Ichigo is probably the most hype character that you can put into Bleach Rebirth the Souls, but the question is whether or not he will be playable in the game, and if so, how will he operate? These are the questions that I'm constantly seeing when it comes to Dangai Ichigo, so I'm here to talk about it. If you guys are new to the channel, I usually make anime gaming videos, mostly on Bleach Rebirth the Souls, as well as some other games such as Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. If you don't want to miss out, make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Let's try to get 250 likes on this video as we answer the pressing questions surrounding Dangai Ichigo being in Bleach Rebirth of Souls. I'm Akai-san, what yo, and let's hop into this video. With the release date fast approaching for Bleach Rebirth of Souls, this is an opportunity to introduce a character that is one of the most hypest and most powerful in the series, even for this time. Ichigo's Dangai form is one that isn't represented in many video games. I can only count 2 games that it's represented in, and one of them is the last console game. Bleach Rebirth of Souls would be the second game on console to introduce Dangai Ichigo if they have him as a playable character. Heck, just looking at Sasuke Aizen, that is the second game to have Aizen in most of his Hokyoku fusion levels. But for the case of Dangai Ichigo, why should he be playable? Well, because he's hype and people want to play with him in a video game, that's evident. But then the second question becomes, how will they incorporate him into this video game? And this is where the creativity is going to have to come into play. The first thing that we should take into account is Dangai Ichigo's stats, because in the fight against him and Aizen, Aizen perceived that Ichigo took all of his spirit energy and converted it into his physical strength and his speed and his grip. Now, in terms of a character stat-wise, I would easily argue that Ichigo should have the highest attack as well as the highest speed. In Bleach Soul Resurrection, him, Yoruichi, and Soifon are the fastest characters in the game. That is just a given, and I think this should still hold true. So for the case of Dangai Ichigo, I'm going to argue that his attack power, his speed, and let's see, maybe durability are his traits, with his skill set and his reach are going to be his lower ones. Since this form of Ichigo retains all of the things from previous Ichigo and not just Dangai, surely some things should remain, such as him using the trademark Getsuga Tensho. Well, I think if they're being accurate here, then Ichigo wouldn't be using the Getsuga Tensho. Instead, Ichigo is capable of generating shockwaves with just a swing of his Zanpakuto. When he's fighting against Sasuke Aizen, as he's deflecting the blades, it's causing ripples which is destroying the landscape around him. Aizen thought this was his power when it was actually Ichigo's that was actually doing the matter. Perhaps maybe Ichigo makes use of the slash attacks that he uses in Bleach Soul Resurrection here in Bleach Rebirth of Souls. As to whether this would be, say, a signature attack, who's to say, but since this is like the main thing we see him doing in the battle, I'm gonna go ahead and argue that his signature attack would rely on these shockwaves as support. One of his spiritual pressure moves could be him negating an attack. We see that in 2 instances in his fight with Aizen, he negates the attack that he does via catching the blade, and then he negates the attack by quite literally bitch slapping the Kido, and it has no effect. In a gameplay perspective, this could be highlighted by making it to where in a certain amount of time and or input, Ichigo isn't affected by any attack. Perhaps he uses it and it drains his spiritual pressure or something. That way it is a double-edged sword where it leaves you with less resources, but you're uber powerful. We could see him doing one or two things, which they can get the idea from Soul Resurrection. We could see him use the charge attack that he does in Soul Resurrection, and or the aerial attacks that we see him use, even though it's quite literally just a copy from his other moveset. The devs are going to have to be a little bit more creative when it comes to the moveset for Dangai Ichigo. Ultimately, there are two sources that you can make use of when creating a moveset for him. We had the fight between him and Tenza Zangetsu in his inner world. Granted, this mostly takes place while he's still in his regular form, and very briefly when he's in his Dangai form with the longer hair. The second instance, of course, is the Aizen versus him fight, which a large portion of his moveset would get inspiration from. Then, of course, the video game Soul Resurrection are three areas of interest that would fuel his moveset. The biggest question, however, is how would his awakening work? Because as of right now, Dangai Ichigo doesn't have any buffs or anything that could operate kinda as a awakening, and I can only think of one idea, and that's them making Mugetsu an actual playable state. Since Dangai Ichigo only ever appeared in one other console game, this would be the first time that Mugetsu, or the final Getsuga Tensho state, would be a playable form. This would probably be one of the most hypest things ever, and I can't think of anything else they could do. But it does come at a cost. How would they incorporate this into the game and also stay true to the series? Well, I could think of it as being something kind of a double-edged sword. Perhaps Ichigo goes into the state and he can fight, but after a certain period of time, he loses his powers. But it wasn't until the use of the move Mugetsu that he lost his powers. So perhaps once you use that move, then you lose your powers. Or maybe there is a health risk. Maybe you lose Reishi when you're in this state to kind of, oh well, Ichigo, you're very powerful, but you're also losing Reishi, so yeah, if you drag this out, then you will end up dying. To give more evidence that this could also operate, after Ichigo uses the final Getsuga Tensho against Aizen, after the attack, Aizen is sent flying and eventually he lands. Ichigo flash steps to his position, and only after then he loses that form and he starts to lose his power. So this could be a delayed effect in the video game, to where you could play in this form and then eventually you lose access to the form. Similar to how Renji loses Bankai after a certain period of time. This could also be the case where it's a one-time awakening, and should you use it, then your stats will be lowered for the duration of the battle, but granted, you're still able to play, because video game. Anyways, I could ramble more and more on about the possibilities of this form of Ichigo, but I think the basic premise to it is why should he be playable? Because he's a hype character. How should he play? They should incorporate many things from his fight with Aizen, as well as some of the things that Kubo could tell the people there, and who ultimately would play with this character. A lot of people, including me. But anyways, that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully you guys find some value in this. I'm sorry if this is a long video and you don't care about this, but alas, that's it. I'm Akai saying what yo, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.